Hey everyone, Kayla Louise here, and welcome to my podcast, Wide Open, where we talk about women's health, relationship, sex, trauma, overcoming hardship, building a life that truly feels like your own, and basically anything we damn well feel like. We look to open up a dialogue that promotes healing and growth for women, and honestly, anyone who's listening. Today we've got dirt biker and content creator Sarah Bulford, aka Mountain Darling, joining us to share stories of loss, recovery, and more, uncovering a deeper side we don't see on social media. Let's dive in and get wide open with Sarah Bulford. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
I was like, this morning, I was like, why am I nervous? I don't know. I shouldn't be nervous. I've done like podcasts before, but I feel like I'm just always nervous when I have to like talk about myself. I'm like, oh, I can write about it and like post about it.
Yeah.
But when I have to actually like talk, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But
well,
I got this.
Of course. It's just a conversation, like just wanting to get to know you. And like I just know there's a lot of people actually that like don't know you for who you are. And with that, I'll just say, so today we've got Sarah Bulford on the Wide Open podcast. And so most of you guys know her as Mountain Darling. And you and I met last summer, I guess, at a Mudhoney's event.
Yeah.
So very briefly, and I, again, like we follow each other. I see like your content is amazing. You obviously dirt bike, which is a good, like solid reason why I got you on here. But there's, like, as we kind of talked a little bit, like there's some depth to you, like there is with most people, but you've got some pretty incredible stories, I believe, that you want to share that probably have shaped who you are today. And that's a big part of why I have this podcast, is because I think there's a lot of these incredible women who we follow on social media and we see the content, we don't see what has gotten them to who they are and why I feel they are so inspiring. And so before we begin though, I want to just say, like, give us a little intro to like who you are, where you're living right now and what you do for work. So yeah.
Sweet. So I'm Sarah. I live on the coast in British Columbia. I don't say exactly where I live because it's a small town, so I like to just keep that on the DL. I actually have an interesting 9 to 5. So I work in marketing full-time for a magazine, for Mountain Life magazine. And then I work in the evenings at a youth center in like the nearest city here. So I'm pretty like full on during the week. And then I try to ride when I get off work with like a headlamp or something, usually like almost every night. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I've been in marketing for 10 years. It's provided like a pretty flexible work schedule. So I've been able to kind of like follow my passions and explore kind of like other opportunities and stuff. Lots of working at home alone. So it's good to have the mix up between doing like youth work stuff and also being at home.
Cool. Yeah, I had no idea you did the youth work stuff. So that's probably a very, very fulfilling avenue of work too.
Yeah.
So you're riding lots, which is awesome. I mean, I don't even get out for a bike ride every day, so that's sweet that you do. What kind of bike do you ride?
I have a 2022 KTM 300 XCW. And I think you're riding a 300 right now, aren't you? An XCW?
I've got it on loaner. My brother's got a 2021. And nice. So I put in a little bit of seat time. He was so gracious. He's like, he's a commercial fisherman. So he can use it for the summer. Yeah. So it's sitting outside if I want to.
It's a little different than your race bike.
It is.
Yeah, an SX, right? An SX, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard to go back and forth. So I kind of try not to because I get too used to one. And then like even this last race, I was like, oh wow, this is again so different. Just hopping back on. But yeah, it's a nice bike though.
I've ridden a couple of those race bikes and they got a lot of get up and go for sure. That you get on the 300 and you're like, this is like just so nice. I can just lug up everything. But no, I love my bike. I think it's perfect just for like the type of terrain that I like to ride and the way that I like to ride. But I think like whatever bike you ride is great.
Yeah. What is the type of terrain that you like to ride? Like, what would be your favorite stuff?
So just like enduro single track, very like coastal rainforest style riding, similar to what you have on the island, of course.
Yeah.
I actually really want to get out and do some of your, once I get knee surgery, I want to do some of your races on the island because it looks so fun. They're
Yeah.
like, they look awesome.
Yeah. We do have a really good series, and it's like a great group of women. It's
Hmm.
just been like really fun. So, yeah, would love to have you come out.
Yeah, it seems like lots of women like from the mainland and stuff are coming more and more like over to do those races. So I'm like, oh, I gotta do that next year, the year after. We'll see how the knee recovers, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big surgery. So take it easy.
yeah,
I know a lot of people getting it done. So
yeah,
seems
it seems like it's
it's
the season for knees.
I know it's like a rite of passage. Okay, you've had your knee surgery, you're now a dirt biker.
Yeah, there you go. I know, it's crazy. You're either like, yeah, a skier that has it or a dirt biker, and everyone that talks to me, they're like, should I have knee braces? I'm like, get them like before you mess your knees up because you'll
Okay.
thank me later. Yeah,
All
get
right.
those.
Note to self, get knee braces. Uh,
Don't do it after. I mean, do it after, but also do it like as a prevention because yeah, you'll be happy.
yeah, that'll be next on the list for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also saw you got some new graphics done, which
Yeah.
which is awesome. I just got my graphics kit from Jessie. So
Yeah,
she's not
Jesse's
she's
the
not
best.
sponsoring this episode, but we love her and I
Oh,
obviously want to
yeah, shout
support
out.
our super rad females. So yeah, like your graphics kit looks pretty wicked.
Yeah, and it was such a switch. Like I had this like super colorful orange, blue, like very like you looked at it and it was like a Christmas tree wrap before, and I loved it. But then I was like, I just want to go for something like a little bit more simple and like I don't know, more incognito than before. So Jesse was really great and like customized the whole thing. I was like, I want a bear and I want this and I want this and this. And then she was like, oh yeah, no problem, like easy peasy. And then she got it to me like super fast because I was like, oh, I wonder if I'll get it like mid-season. It was like showed up at my house like a couple weeks later. I'm like, you are a champion.
That's
But
sweet.
yeah, Jesse's the best.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
really
I've already like
interesting color. Yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
Mine's definitely kind of on that side too. Like I went a lot darker than I would have thought I'd go.
Mhm.
So I guess dark's the new cool. Let's go all
Yeah.
black.
Yeah, we're all just like, okay, we've done the flashy thing. We're
Yeah.
gonna like take a little back seat here and we'll have some black. I think yeah, I just like I don't know. I never really liked like the all black kind of bikes, but then I was like, you know what? I'll put some gold in there. It'll be a little flashy. It'll be fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just have to change my hand guards now because the consensus was that I don't keep the orange. I get rid of the orange and have black. So I'm like, okay.
Oh, I
Well,
was wondering. I was
yeah,
wondering
and then
because I
I
saw that.
smashed up. Yeah, I smashed up my flags pretty good the other day, so I'm like, oh, maybe it's time. When your bark busters, I don't know if you ride with bark busters, but when they
Yeah.
get like too bent that you can't get them, like you're changing your grips and you can't get them back into your handlebars, you're like, okay, maybe it's time to get a new set. So once I do get a new set, I'll get black flags and see how the all black looks.
Uh, well, they're doing their purpose, sounds like.
Yes, yes, they saved my hands. I got a pretty good bruise yesterday. I don't know if it actually showed up. You probably can't even see it, but I got like a contact with the
Oh
tree.
yeah.
Took some
Yeah.
tree sampling. Took some good tree samples yesterday. As
Nice.
you do. We're all covered in bruises.
Oh yeah. I got little scuffs on my shoulder from
Oh
going
yeah,
over my
that's a good
bars the
one.
other day. So
Oh yeah, I watched that video. You're brave. Like my partner does like the little nosy things all the time, and I'm like, I'm way too scared to do those. Like I do not want to face plant. That
it
scares me.
I did like a really good one, like my first
Yeah,
one, and I was like, whoa, that was like
I
super
could do
easy.
this.
And then I
Yeah.
couldn't do it for the life of me. So I don't
We
know.
just, yeah, I overthink it. Like I'll do it perfect one time and then I'll overthink it real hard for like a few minutes. And then the next time I'm like, what did I do different? I don't understand. But
Yeah. Yeah.
they are hard.
They are hard. It's like, yeah, it definitely needs
It's
some
just
work. I might
committing.
strap pillows to myself or something next time. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to do it somewhere really soft.
Yeah.
just like a mossy field. Yeah, that one I like haven't really tried with the knee injury. Like there's certain things that I like won't let myself do right now because of my knee. I'm like, oh, I should be careful because like if I need to catch myself doing like I'm still riding all the time, but I'm like I'm avoiding like sessioning logs because I'm like, oh, if I end up having to like put my foot down, then I'll like I don't have anything really left in that knee, so I don't want to cause like damage between the joint and then have like arthritis when I'm like 33. So I'm like, I'm just gonna be careful. But yeah, I haven't tried those because I'm like, what if I have to like catch myself or something? But
Yeah, it's probably for the best. Like we gotta know our limits because we do want to
yeah.
be able to do this like for a long time.
Yeah. Like I don't
But
want to be without my knee when I'm young. So
awesome. Well, yeah, so I don't know if you want to dive into some deeper topics if we're ready to do that. Like I kind of have a little layout of where to go with the conversation, but obviously it's free to whatever you want to talk about, and don't feel like you have to talk about anything you're uncomfortable with. I don't know if you're comfortable starting back when you were like 16 and you said there's some big life changes that happen and kind of go from there.
yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like really trying not to say yeah, so, but that's just like what I say. I was like, this is such a side tangent, but I was doing like this course about like, it wasn't really a course, but it was like going through like learning how to do public speaking or whatever. And it was like, don't say like, don't say yes, so, don't say I'm like, those are all the things I say all the time.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna hear me say that a lot.
I
But
can I can always
yeah, back
edit
when
them out if there's too many. I'll give
no,
you a
I'm gonna make
minimum
an
or a
act.
maximum you're allowed to say.
I'm gonna make a point of not saying that many. Yeah, so back when I was I think I just turned 16. So I come from a big family. I have 4 older brothers and a younger sister, so there's 6 of us in total. We were pretty close. Grew up in the interior of BC, so like in the East Kootenays, kind of near like Kimberley, Cranbrook area. And yeah, my so we're all kind of like 2 years apart. So I have a brother that's 2 years older than me, so he would have been like 18, almost 18. And I was 16, and he was killed by a drunk driver just before his 18th birthday. So yeah, so that was like a big thing for our family. Obviously, like quite traumatic. We ended up having a court case that lasted like 5 years for our family to kind of like go through all that stuff. And yeah, it just was like a very big impact for our family. And obviously, like as a developing teenager, and even like obviously, like my younger sister, who was even younger at the time, like she was just like almost 15. And yeah, just like a really big crash in our universe, which kind of like, I don't know, put a hold on like a lot of stuff for us. And I feel like was kind of like those core like developing years to become a young adult was kind of like paused for a while. So yeah, it's been a journey from that point. I mean, there's obviously been like lots of other bumps along the way, but I'd say that was probably like the one that kind of like was a real big hit and has kind of like shaped who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
How
his
how was your relationship with your brother? Like how close were you guys?
it was really good. Yeah, because we were all so close together, we like obviously like went to high school together and like went to parties together. He was like the one that always like I was allowed to go if he was going because he'd like look out for me. Um yeah, definitely was really like probably closer at the time with him than with like any of my other siblings just because of like our how close we were in age and how we were both in high school at the same time. So, yeah, it was definitely like yeah, a really big hit to like not just me, but obviously like my whole family and has kind of like morphed every.
Yeah, absolutely. And so during that or during the time after, did your family like do you feel like it brought you guys closer? Was there any sort of shift in the family dynamic that
Yeah, I don't think it I just think at the time because just how everything like unfolded, we weren't really able to like grieve the way that we should have, or had like the resources to like have counseling and be able to, like, obviously, like I like sought out that stuff on my own as I got older. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see a therapist. But at the time, it's like those resources weren't available to us. So we kind of just all found our own individual ways of healing, which didn't really like connect everybody together. It kind of like pushed everybody apart. And I'd say just like in the last maybe like 5 years, everyone has slowly, like, now there's like grandbabies and like people are connecting more as like adults and like fully formed adults who have like done work to be able to like let go of stuff and move on. But yeah, I'd say it wasn't like a situation that brought us closer at the time, but I think now being able to like relate to how our life has gone is a little bit better. But yeah, it definitely wasn't like any sort of storybook of like, oh, there's, you guys can all like band together and like take care of each other. I think it was, yeah, it kind of like pulled people apart in different directions. So we're now just trying to do the work to like, and I mean, a big family's like, it's hard to have that closeness with everybody. So yeah, I'd say it's a work in progress and probably will be a work in progress for the rest of our lives, just because of how everyone's experience is so different. Like I can't relate to how my sister experienced that time of life. And she can't relate to how I experienced that time of life, just because we were different people with different feelings. And yeah, but definitely, yeah, wasn't easy for anybody.
No, and you probably didn't realize at the time how much it's probably shaped, like it was going to shape your life. I think it's something
Oh yeah.
you probably look back on more now, that you see the patterns or the habits or just the way it
Yeah,
shaped you.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I at the time I think I was more just like in survival mode, like okay, I have to like, and we're in a really unique position because my brother was very like loved by like all different age groups and friend groups. So he had like so many people that were connected to him either through like jobs or through school or through like, he had older friends because we had older brothers that he would hang with them and everything. So our house was just like filled with like young adults, like just there was just people all the time for like a month after he passed away. So there wasn't really like space for our family to like connect and take care of each other. It was more like we were kind of trying to like be there for the community, but also and also accept like support from the community. But because everyone was grieving, it was like just this big house of grief instead of like, having people there to like separate the, okay, like the friend group that is needing support versus the family that's needing support can be very different. So yeah, it at the time, I think I was just like, wow, there's so many people around all the time and like this is crazy. And then it wasn't really until probably like my late 20s that I realized like how much all of that was affecting different aspects of my life and like how I hadn't really processed any of it. And even like to this day, like things will come up and I'll be like, oh, why am I like having such big feelings about this? And then I can like trace it back to something that happened around that time or like the accident itself or whatever. Yeah, it's just crazy grief, I think, just follows you. You can like work on it and try to heal from it, but I think it will just kind of be with you your whole life. It just gets like a little bit easier to manage. Like obviously this happened in 2008, so it's been a while.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, and I agree with that. It's never gone, but and even with you saying how, being filled with a house full of people, and maybe at the
Mhm.
time like that was comforting, or it was just the way it was
Mhm.
going. But I had a loss back a long time ago too, and it was kind of a
Mhm.
similar situation. It was just so many people, and there was a point when
Mhm.
I realized like I needed to be alone to do my own
Mhm.
grieving, because there's like grieving with
Mhm.
community, there's grieving with your friends,
Mhm.
there's grieving with
Yeah.
family, but then there's also like separate, like your own individual grieving that you need for yourself,
Yeah.
because it's sometimes you, as a person, say if you're a very giving, empathetic person,
Yeah.
you could be taking all your energy to help someone else grieve, and you're not actually grieving yourself.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's probably been a process through your life
Yeah.
now of taking your own steps to your own grieving.
Yeah, totally. And being able to like even just like talk about it with my family, like there was such a big gap where like it was just like taboo to talk about it. Like we just didn't like, even like saying his name was like just uncomfortable and people were weird about it. But we were able to do that with like friends and like even just like random people that we met on the street, that like if somebody was like telling me that they were going through something rough, I'd be like, you know what, I've been there, like let's talk about it. But I couldn't do it with my family because it was just like, it just felt like you were going to hurt the other person if you brought it up, or it was going to be awkward. But over time it's like we've broken that down, and I'd say I have like some siblings that I'm able to talk about it more with, and then some that are, we kind of just keep it on the down low and don't talk about it too much. But we actually just, my brother just had a baby and named him after my brother, so it is like something we're gonna all have to talk about now, which I feel like is really gonna be like just healing for everyone, like just to even be able to like use the name again and like be and have this like little piece of him that obviously has his DNA and like will obviously have like, you know, some pieces of him in that, in his life. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting how the everything's kind of gone like full circle, and we're like, okay, there's like, we gotta all kind of like deal with this even more now. So, but yeah.
Beautiful. And I think like he deserves to, I think that's the thing with grief sometimes and loss is, yeah, we don't talk about it, but we're almost like disservicing like that person who
Mm-hmm.
passed if we don't, because they do
Yeah.
still exist, even though they're not
Mm-hmm.
here, they still exist in our lives. And
Yeah.
why not celebrate them and keep their memory
Yeah.
alive?
And there's so many like positive ways to do it so that like you don't always have to be talking about it in like a sad way. Like there's
Yeah.
lots of like happy memories that we have, and we still have like family videos that we can watch, and yeah, there's lots of ways to do it without it being always like gloomy.
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think people forget when it comes to like people passing away. Like I would love if people told me stories about him. Like I love when people will message and be like, "Oh, I remember when this happened." Like that's great. It's not, it doesn't make me sad to talk about him. It just makes me sad to like relive some of the grief and like the accident and all that happening. Like I don't want to talk about that stuff all the time, but like happy to talk about the good memories and stuff with him. But yeah.
Yeah. Aw. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's, yeah, that must have been a very hard time for you. Yeah, so after that, going forward, I think you'd shared another thing about your father, and I don't know if you wanted to talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like our family just had like, I mean, my mom would kill me for saying this because she doesn't believe in any of this stuff, but like I feel like we just had this like curse or this like dark like cloud that just like went, like it started with my brother, and then I feel like it just kind of like went over us for like a decade and then cleared up. It was like my dad got diagnosed with cancer and went through like chemo and everything, and has been like quite sick for a very long period of time. He's kind of like on the mend now. He's had like he had some like other body problems that he's had to have like surgeries for and stuff. So he's been sick for like the better part of a decade. And that obviously was like scary because we'd already experienced loss. So then we were going through like, okay, is like this going to be something that we're going to have to deal with again? Yeah, there just was like a lot of things that came up in this weird time span of like, I had another brother that was in like another serious accident. He didn't um obviously pass away, but like there just was, yeah, just a lot of things that happened. And we just kind of, and then I think I just kind of moved into like living in survival mode and just lived there for like, yeah, for like the last 10 years. And I feel like I just came out of it in like maybe the last year where I'm like, okay, I'm going to like get out of living in my sympathetic nervous system, and I'm going to start like actually enjoying life and not living like every day is my last day. And I was just having like a conversation with my brother the other night about how um, we like do this thing, which I think is like just a trauma response, but everything that we do, like if it's creative or like say go for a ride or whatever, like in the back of our heads we're like, this is the last time we're going to do this, like just like nonchalantly, like, oh, this is the last ride I'll ever go on, or like, oh, this is the last like project I'll ever do. And then we're like, what? Like obviously we're going to like wake up tomorrow and do it all over again, but there is this like all these things that happened over the past 10 years, and we're like, yeah, this is like stressful. Like we feel like we don't have enough time left or something, like the next bad thing's going to happen. So we've had to like train ourselves out of thinking that like everything's over after we do one good thing. So like after I go for a ride, I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to go for a ride like next week or tomorrow or whatever. It's not like, oh, this is my last time out on my bike. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just interesting what like, yeah, what trauma can do to you and how it kind of like morphs you as a person. But you have to kind of become like, if you can become aware of it and then start working on it, definitely will help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting that you like recognize that. I think that's very powerful that you recognize that, because we often don't see those cycles and patterns until like they become full on patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
And like
We
I
start
kind of
thinking
believe,
about it.
yeah, and I kind of believe that like as much time that's been put into creating a pattern is how much time you need to like uncreate it.
Yeah.
So that like if you've been doing that for like 10 years, it might take you 10 years to like recycle yourself out
Oh
of it,
yeah.
but it takes a lot of
Yeah.
mindfulness and you have to be committed to it.
Yeah. I have to catch myself every time I do it and be like, no, no, no. Like there's lots of things I'm even doing now. Like I had like a lot of trauma around like my phone. So just because like bad news always comes through the phone. Like it's
Yeah.
always like if someone's hurt or like something or someone's sick, it's always going to come through the phone. So I could like text and be on social media and all that, but if my phone rang, it was like my ringer always needed to be off. It was like always on silent, like couldn't yeah, could if somebody called me, I could call them back, but I had to do it on like my own terms. Like if they called me like 5 times, I was like, okay, I need to like wait until I'm like in the right headspace to call you back, even if it's like an emergency, because I just can't like function doing this. And then I ended up getting a job where like I'd say there was some of the people I work with are an older demographic that enjoy being on the phone and want to talk and don't want to email. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to like come to terms with like people calling me and me calling them and like so yeah, that took a long time. And I'd say it's like not even that it's not even 100% yet. And that's been like me working on it actively for like the last 5 years. And still isn't 100%. Like I don't remember the last time I had my phone volume, like my ringer on. I don't know, other than like I know when this person's calling, so I'll answer my phone, but like I don't, yeah. So these habits, these things that like our brain does to protect us are very hard to undo.
Yeah. Yeah, and just give yourself that compassion that that's exactly what it was doing at the
Mm-hmm.
time. It was trying to protect you.
Yeah.
It did what it
Yes.
did. It knew how to do
It's
best.
function. Yeah.
We're not
Yeah,
broken. We're
exactly.
just fighting our own safety mechanism sometimes.
Yeah. And our like I mean our mind is incredible and like the way that our bodies like hold grief and trauma and then try to tell us in different ways and like you can it takes a long time to like recognize what those feelings are and then be able to be like okay, I'm going to make like a change to help myself. But yeah, you can be totally like oblivious to like be out and living your life and then something triggers you and you're like why am I feeling like so like disengaged or upset or like why am I disassociating from this situation and then you go home and you think about it and you're like oh yeah there was like something that related to something in my past that like but some people can't recognize that and then I think they just end up kind of being like consumed by those feelings. So I'm
Yeah,
working on it. Helps to have a therapist. You should definitely get it. Everybody should have a therapist.
I agree. I
I'm like,
agree.
I talk about this on my social media. I like every once in a while, I'll just like bombard people with like a really random deep post that they just like don't see coming. And like some people don't even want it because they're like, I just want to follow you for like dirt biking. I don't want to hear about this. I'm like, I don't care. This is like, if you're going to pretend that this isn't a real thing, like everybody's got problems. If you want to pretend it's not real, then whatever. But yeah, every once in a while I'll be like, go to therapy, get a therapist. Here's all the things that I've learned. And like, here's how I'm like trying to better myself. And like, you can too. And now, like,
uh,
even if I get like haters or like trolls in the comments or in messages or whatever, I'll just be like, you should go to therapy.
yeah.
Like, it will help you. Stop bullying women on the internet and go to
Uh,
therapy.
yeah, it's deflection. And
Yeah.
no, I honestly like I love that side of people. Like I
Yeah.
do it too. I'm like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna follow me, like it's gonna be a mishmash of like happy days and
Yeah.
sad days and feelings, and we're gonna
Yeah.
talk funny stuff, and then we're gonna talk about deep, deep shit. And it's like,
Yes.
deal with it, because that's life. Like
Yeah.
I don't find life exciting if it's all like, if you're on level 10 all the time. That's not real.
Yeah, no. Also, like there's been more like I've been in all sorts of things in the outdoor industry. It's not just been dirt biking. Like I've experienced all kinds of things with like skiing, and I was really into rock climbing for a long time. So like you're all those things that happen, all the feelings and emotions in different sports. It's like it's not, yeah, I'm not just gonna post one thing and call it good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like to throw in things every once in a while, a little feminist rant or a little body positivity something or other. But yeah, I'm like, yep, you get what you get. You can unfollow. There's a button right there. You don't need to tell me. Just close the door and don't announce it. It's fine.
Amen. Okay. So yeah, as we're kind of going into talking about biking and sports, I wanted to get into how you got into dirt biking. If you're okay
So
with that.
yeah, let's do it. So I actually started dirt biking as a kid. So
Yeah.
I had actually, this is just like another trauma story, which is really sad. But I had my best friend in high school. She got me into riding. So she was like, her name was Cheyenne. She was like, just like full speed ahead kind of person. Like, had dirt bikes, had quads, lived out in the country. Was very like hyper and would try anything. She actually passed away shortly after we graduated, which was like just another kind of like add into the whole 10 years of Bulford family curse. But
Yeah.
yeah, she was kind of like the first one that got me into it. So she had little, I don't even know what she had. I think she had like little, like, it might have been like 125s. It might have been, I don't even remember I'd have to look up I don't even know what the bikes were, but they were like not maintained well. They were like missing parts, and we would just ride them out to this like sketchy reservoir area that we would go swimming in, and like very like small town, probably weren't even allowed to be in there, but we just like go swimming and play in the woods. And I actually had like my first really bad crash riding with her. We were on the way home. We'd been like riding through the woods. I think at some point we were like doubling on a dirt bike. And then I ended up like being like, oh, I'll just like ride it the rest of the way. And I don't even know how she got back. Maybe I just was taking it for a rip. I don't know. I was like maybe 14 or something. And I ended up like dumping it on pavement and putting like the end of her, she was missing like a foot peg on one side. So it was just like a metal like shard coming out of like the side of the bike. And I was wearing like, of course, this is like so the times, but I was wearing like those DC skate shoes.
Yeah.
And I dumped the bike sideways and put that metal shard through my foot, like full like hole through my left foot. And I got so lucky because it like just missed the bone and went like between kind of like below the pinky toe and into the foot. It was like, I don't even know. And so that was my first experience with dirt bikes, was like, oh yeah, we used to ride like in sand dunes, like a weird like gravel pit sand dune thing.
Yeah.
It was not like how I ride now, but that was kind of like my intro. And then my dad had like a couple bikes, and I actually in grade 12 got a like road bike. I had a Kawasaki Ninja 250
Really?
and rode that to school every day. Like, yeah, worked for like so many summers to get this bike. And then, yeah, so I rode a street bike for a long time. And then before I moved to Squamish, I sold it because I was like terrified of the Sea to Sky Highway. I was like, how will I, like everybody dies. How will I do it? Obviously, like a lot had happened since like, yeah, before I moved, but I didn't think I was capable of riding somewhere that busy. So especially coming from like a small town, so I got rid of it. And then I don't know, then I got like super into rock climbing. That was like all, I mean, that's Squamish. Like you go to Squamish and like if you don't rock climb or mountain bike, then you're weird. So I didn't get a mountain bike, which would have made probably more sense, but I rock climbed for like 10 years there and was super into it. And then I just felt like I wasn't passionate about it anymore. And I was like, oh, I just feel like I have this like drive to be doing something again. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like I need to explore that. And then, yeah, then I was like, and I just turned to my partner. I was like, I think I'm gonna get a dirt bike. Like, I think I'm just gonna like I didn't even like follow anyone that dirt biked. I didn't have like any friends that were dirt biking. Squamish wasn't like even like now I feel like it's kind of exploded in Squamish, but at the time I was like, I didn't know anyone that I didn't even know there was dirt bike trails in Squamish. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna like get one and just ride around on logging roads or like go exploring or something. And then the first bike I got was a 105 XC, like KTM 105 XC, and it was like very like that thing just wanted to like wheelie and like flip over your head, and it was like a little firecracker.
This is
So
a
that's
two-stroke?
like how yeah, two-stroke 105. Like so small. I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like I can move on this thing. But it actually taught me a lot about just like because they just want to go and like live in like race mode. It just taught me a lot about like how to use my clutch and how to control when the front wheel comes up. And then that just helped me a lot as I got onto like a full size bike because it just felt like dealing with like the height of the bike was nothing compared to how that bike just wanted to like pop a wheelie and flip over your head constantly.
Yeah.
And then I briefly rode a 150, but I just didn't like the feel of a 150. I don't know why. I just like I didn't feel like it had the power that I know it does. Like I know that if you can, I've seen like I know that there are chicks that I raced with last year and in like the higher race classes and stuff that kill a 150 and they're just like out there and it's like pinned and it's screaming and they're having the time of their life. Like good, that it just didn't. I didn't have that. It didn't work for me. I was like, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the top end all the time. I don't want to like. I just want to have the power and it be smooth. And I don't care if I have to add like extra weight on the bike to have that like whatever. So then I rode my 150. I think for like I don't know, maybe like 5 months. And then I sold it and just bought a 300 and never looked back. And the 300's been, yeah, like a game changer for me personally. It's been like everything I've wanted in a bike. I have nothing to complain about. It has no TPI issues. It is a TPI, but it hasn't had any, like, I haven't had a single problem with it. I've got like 140 hours on it now. And yeah, it's been like, yeah, it's been my dream bike. I love it. So yeah, that's sort of a tangent of what we were talking about, but here we are.
No, that's exactly it. That's how you got into dirt biking. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's cool that you rode a street bike back in high school. You must have been pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was
I'll have
definitely
to
not
send you
that
a
cool in high
picture.
school.
I gotta send you a picture of it
I
because
would love to see that.
it was like lime green and so big and I was so small. Like I feel like now I've
Aw.
like gone to the gym and I've like been able to feel like I can actually like manage a like kind of manage a bike
Yeah.
and it's like how heavy it is. So that bike was like so heavy and I was so small. I'm like, what were my parents thinking? And I definitely like I remember my dad was trying to teach me like how to ride it because my dad like rode motorcycles a lot. He still does ride motorbikes and um, the first day I was like riding in like his parking lot at work and I just dumped it and like smashed the mirror. And I was like, I'm not qualified. Like I should not be allowed to do this. But yeah, I've been thinking about actually getting like renewing my license. And I mean, I don't know how if I have to do it all over again, but yeah, I've been thinking about getting like a street bike again because I'm like, yeah, why not? It's so cheap on gas.
I just got my first motorcycle at 33.
Nice. Yeah,
It's taken me a
it's
long
great.
time to be cool.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I love street bikes, but I just was scared. Like, I mean, the Sea
Yeah.
to Sky is kind of a scary place to ride. Like, you're on the island. Like everybody's on island time. It's like
Yeah.
better.
There like the thing for me is I'm actually very hesitant on the highway. And like I rode down when I was in Nicaragua last February, March, and
Yeah.
like I felt fine down there and it was crazy busy. Like you're in town, just
Yeah.
nobody really follows rules, but I almost felt safer with everyone doing their own because people weren't like following rules, but you trusted that
Right.
you just don't trust anyone. We're here, like
Yeah.
going through intersections, you're very trusting that someone's going to stop at an intersection. So you almost get
Yeah. Totally.
complacent. where
Yeah.
you have to like, you always have to remember that like you can't trust anyone. Not when you're
Yeah.
on a bike, because if you get
Uh,
hit, you're the one who suffers.
yeah.
And so I kind of just keep my mind in that same mindset I was in Nicaragua, where
Yeah.
everyone's dangerous. Just stay away from
Yeah.
people. Don't trust
Yeah.
anyone.
Drive very defensively.
But we have like from where I live to Nanaimo, that's probably the highway that I fear the most. And it's why I don't really travel much, because you can only really go south end or north end here. And
Mhm.
north end, you can go along like along the water, and it's like a beautiful little drive on the old highway. But going to Nanaimo, it's every summer there's so many bike accidents. There was like one summer, I remember it was just like death after death, and it scarred me because they were
Yeah.
like really gruesome. And
Yeah.
so I still, since I bought my bike on the mainland and I brought it over, I haven't gone down to Nanaimo, and it's like what's stopping me from going anywhere,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I want to go, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
come to think of it, like that highway is kind of crazy. People do drive really fast. Like
It's
I
like a
feel like people
weird
that live,
highway.
yeah, I feel like people that live there are like a little bit better, but it's like there's so much obviously like tourist traffic and everything. Like
It's the
it's like the sea,
tourists in
it
the
is like the
summer.
sea to sky, I guess.
Yeah, and there's no route around it.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
so
remember being scared. Like I went there. This is, oh yeah, this is like a random side thing. But I did search and rescue in Squamish for
oh,
eight
cool.
years and or seven or 8 years, somewhere in there. And I went to like one time I like put my big girl pants on and went and did a course in Comox, and I don't know, I had never been over there and was like nervous about it, and it was a like a team leader course for search and rescue, and so it was like my first time driving that highway, and I was by myself, and I just remember like being like, it was I think in maybe like June, and so like people were like starting to visit there more and more, and I remember being like, this highway's scary, and I'd like just come off the sea to sky, like that should have been scary, but I was like, this is so scary. And I
Yeah,
think it's straighter in a lot of sections, so people can like the sea to sky is so windy that people like freak out and brake on every corner. Where
yeah.
like there's a lot of straight stretches where you can just like haul ass on that highway. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird little spot, but yeah, for the most part, everyone's pretty chill on the island. Like it's definitely
Yeah.
better than like Greater Vancouver.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
cool
street
that you
bikes are
did.
super fun.
Yeah, that's cool you did search and rescue though. That's something I've always considered if I had more time. How
Yeah,
like
you need the time.
yeah, I
It's
was
so
gonna
time
say, 'cause
consuming.
it's all volunteer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Squamish was like in the summer there's a call or multiple calls every single day. So it's like if you and it's like a tricky industry because like the everyone on the team really wants to have everyone involved, but it's like not everyone has the um like luxury of a super flexible schedule, so you can still want to be in that world but not have as much free time as other people, so it almost becomes like a bit of a competition between like who's able to show up to every call and training versus like the people that work a 9 to 5 and can only do the after work calls. So yeah, it's a tough thing to balance, especially in Squamish. I think anywhere else like where I am now or maybe where you are, like the teams might still get lots of calls but are able to balance it because it's not like every single day.
Yeah.
um yeah, it just like became too taxing and was like, yeah, I had no free time. And then I felt guilty if I didn't go to a call because I was like, oh, this is like, I should be doing this. And I'd be like out on my bike and there'd be a call and I would be like, oh, it's like my only day off and now I have to go. And it's not like I wanted to be a part of it. And I got a lot of free training and it was a great experience. But yeah, it just was like mega time consuming. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why a lot of ours are like the retired folks, which is
yeah,
not
and the
really the
same with,
greatest demographic to be search and rescue, but
yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of very active, strong, but it's crazy because it's like very older group of people that are the ones doing it because they have the time. So, well,
yeah,
good for you.
exactly.
That
And
would
then
have
there'd
been
be
like,
like a few young people.
yeah, would have been incredible experience though. And I think cool too, because like you're an active outdoorsy person, just having that training for your own benefit or
Mhm.
when you're out with your friends, like that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. And I did a lot of like backcountry skiing, so being able to like have avalanche rescue training and be able to like go out with the team on snowmobiles and practice rescues, it just gave me a lot of like confidence in the backcountry. And yeah, it was a great time of life. I feel like it's yeah, I feel like I did my time, and it was I did it like, people are always like, oh, you're retired now. I'm like, yeah, I retired. Like I started like basically fresh out of high school. So
Yeah.
like now to be like done with it, if I gave like almost 10 years of my life to it, then I feel like, okay, I can let this go and help in other ways. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good stint of volunteer services. Like, I'm sure a lot of people were very grateful for it.
a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I wanted to ask you too, like kind of going back to the losses and stuff in your life. And um, were there ever times when you felt like you were going to go down a dark path or felt like you were slipping? And like, how did you cope with some of the darkest stuff?
So yeah, I think it's like, it's been interesting with me because I feel like I've just had this like underlying sadness for a long time, where it's just been like I've just been like low key depressed since I was 16, where like if there's quiet in my life, I really notice it, where I'll be like, and I mean, I've done a lot of work now, so I'd say in the last couple of years it's been a lot better. I haven't been like as anxious or as depressed, but definitely like I'd say in my 20s, I was like quite depressed and like going through a lot of stuff, and kind of just keeping myself busy, which would probably be like giving all my time to search and rescue or being out in the backcountry or riding or whatever, was like, how much of my time can I fill? So there's never like silence in my head, because then I have to think about um, things that are hard. So yeah, I think I was in a dark place for a really long time, where I couldn't, yeah, just couldn't be alone, and I couldn't have quiet. I would play music literally like 24/7, so that I didn't have to like hear any thoughts to my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, then I kind of had like just an awakening, I'd say around like when I was like 28, where I was like feeling so depressed and like nothing was giving me joy. And I was just like, man, I gotta start taking care of myself. And then started going to therapy and started like just doing more, like focusing more on like self-care and making time for myself and being creative. And I started like painting and um yeah, just trying to like slow down and be okay with like the quiet in my mind. Obviously, like, yeah, if you're depressed or like suicidal or any of that stuff, like seeking help and therapy is really important. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I was like, okay, I need to like see someone and talk through this stuff. And then, yeah, then I started taking care of myself and being able to like, and sports have always been something that I can like pull myself out of like a bad place. I can be like, yeah, I'm gonna like kind of go take it all out in whatever I'm doing. So like dirt biking was like always a good like out to what, however I'm feeling, but it never, like, even if you get off the bike and you go back inside and you have a shower and you sit on your couch, like that stuff still creeps back in. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that like dirt biking and sports is like the only way to deal with your mental health, because it's not. It's like, yeah, sure, it can make you feel good and like adrenaline feels good, but there are like the lows still come back. So being able to like have self-care rituals and people to talk to and like building yourself a little support system is definitely very important. Because I have like lots of people that will message me and be like, yeah, like dirt biking's like my form of therapy. It's like how I get through life and everything. And I'm like, totally. That's how like we all do it. But there is still, you have to still be able to find, because dirt biking might not always be there. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's stuff that like you can get injured. Like even me, like I've been working this the last few months to be like, okay, I need to like build up my mental strength, because I know I'm going to be off my bike for like a long time while I get
Yeah.
this need dealt with. And like I'm doing it so that I can go back out and ride and be confident and like be healed and take care of my body. But at the same time, there's going to be this part of my brain that's like, oh, you should be riding. Look at you not doing it. And like, look, all these other people are doing it. And you like, all your happiness is gone. So it's like, I've been working being like, okay, like, here's all the things I'm going to like learn guitar. I'm going to
Yeah.
like get back into painting. I'm going to try to like connect with more people. I'm going to invest more in like my work or whatever, and know that there's like other stuff outside of sport, so that I can, yeah, so I can like take care of myself, because it's
Yeah.
like a dark place to be. Like if you get injured, it's like people, like it's really difficult for your brain to be like, this is the thing we love doing that like gives us purpose and meaning and we're really passionate about, and now we can't do that. So
Yeah.
there's no point in living. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, there is like lots of other things that are beautiful in life. It's just, and I think we do get in that mindset a lot of like, dirt biking is the only thing that matters. And that's just like not the case. Like, I mean, I know you have like nieces and stuff and like family that you spend time with, and like that's so beautiful and amazing that like you can give them cool experiences and like invest time in other things in life that are not just, but I think like social media is like kind of the header for all that stuff, being like, you know, everyone's riding all the time, and it's like, no, people also have like lives and people that they love and activities that they do that they don't share. And I've always like looked at social media as like a portfolio more than like a diary of my life. It's just like, this is like a portfolio of like part of the things that I do like creatively and for fun and that bring like that I'm passionate about. But like there's all these this other side of my life that like I'm not going to share with people because it is just what I do for myself to like be alive and enjoy living. But
yeah. No, that's cool that you again like that you recognize that, because it's funny, there was a young girl or younger girl that I've been talking with, and she just had an injury and she mountain bikes, and she was like reaching out to me because I was talking about going to some therapy, and she said similar thing, like now that she doesn't have that, she's like having to work on the mental side of like staying happy during an injury. And there's also like a podcast that I was just listening to just the other night, and I don't know if you probably do, but he's pretty incredible, the Huberman Lab, Dr. Huberman.
yeah, I've heard about them.
I don't
I've
know if you've
like
ever
seen
listened.
like clips on TikTok.
Okay. So there's a podcast that he did on dopamine, and I wrote it down. It's called Controlling Your Dopamine for Motivation, Focus, and Satisfaction. And then he does like another one on top of that. But it was just like really interesting to hear about like how the dopamine spikes. And I think it's similar to like when we talk about riding being like our therapy, and it really is therapeutic. It gives us dopamine rushes and adrenaline. And it's like I always say it's the one place that I can go where I actually clear my mind, which it's like gives you some relief from that anxiety that you're always feeling. But it's not therapy in the sense that it's actually dealing with the underlying problem. It's giving your body, like your nervous system, a break, which we all need that too. So you definitely, like you're saying, you need to pair it with real therapy and that alone time and those other things like music or journaling or family time. It's a big combination. And another thing that was interesting about the dopamine spike is that when we hit dopamine spikes, we always come back down. And I started noticing like after I race, like the adrenaline and that like huge rush of like feeling good after a race. And I would be so high and I'd be like wanting to chase that high again, like more and more. And I knew that I would get like the massive crash the next day. So he talks so much about how if you shoot your dopamine too high, like you go below baseline for a few days after. And I was like, it makes so much sense. Like if what goes up must come down. But
and the racing, like the high you get, like you said, from racing, those kind of dopamine hits are just like you're like, oh, I need to do it like next weekend because it like feels so good. And then you're like, yeah, it is kind of like a little bit of drug effect where you just keep chasing. And then I've had friends who like, which is interesting, who like base jump and stuff. They like skydive and base jump and everything. And they just like struggle to do like go to a like anniversary party or like go golfing or like something that's low key. They struggle so much with it because they're like, yeah, there's nothing in it. Like I don't feel anything when I do it. And I'm like, there is a lot with dirt. That's like, it's an adrenaline sport. That's what dirt biking feels like. It's like everything's amazing. Even if you had like the worst day on your bike and you smashed a tree and bent your bars in half, you still went home and were like, that was awesome. And then you like the next day, you can have a crash from it, which is just, which actually that's why I started doing ice baths, was because of like kind of like maintains your dopamine through the day.
That was like, actually what I wanted. That's why I wrote this down, because he was talking about cold water therapy, and I was like, I wanted to ask you why you did that, because it's based.
It started. It started last winter. So my partner and I were just feeling like it was raining so much and snowing, and we were just feeling depressed and kind of anxious and needing like kind of some sort of like refresh in our life. And we were like seeing this stuff about ice baths, and we were like, it seems kind of like gimmicky, like, I don't know, lots of people just like talking about it, whatever. And then we started going we lived like really close to the river. So we started like going in the river in the morning, and it was like so freaking cold because those are like glacier fed, like
Yeah.
freaking the coldest water ever. And the river was like almost like so hard. I feel like that's like level 5 of ice bathing, is because it's just moving fast and it's kind of scary and it's cold and it's dark and like, so we started there, and then we're like, okay, this feels kind of good. And so we ended up buying like one of those like galvanized steel tubs and filling it up and then going in it every day and like making a little challenge every day. And I did notice such a big change in just how I was feeling and my motivation, and my anxiety was like, so like 100% believe that doing that stuff is helping your system, and I felt healthier and better. I'm not doing it now because like the sun comes out and suddenly like no one's depressed. The sun comes out and you're like, it's the best ever. So I can just go swim in the lake, whatever. But I think for those like those times when you're injured, yeah, it's winter is long and it feels crappy. It's like that is just a nice way to like sustain that dopamine throughout. And it doesn't have the crash, it just stays there and is good. So yeah, and it was just a fun thing to challenge ourselves to do. Like we would get competitive with it and be like, I'm gonna stay in for 5 minutes, and then we time each other, and I'm like super competitive, so it's like perfect.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was great. It definitely was a cool, like, eye-opening experience about just like how crazy our bodies are and our mind. And it just helps so much with like mental strength. It's when you go into an ice bath, you're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And you get in it and you're like, I can do this. I can do this. And you keep telling yourself. And then eventually your breathing is calm and you're just chilling and you're going numb and it's good. And then now I notice when I am like scared of something, I'm like, nothing is as hard as the ice bath. Like as long as you like, if you can get in there and sit down, and like I had times where we did it when it was minus 25 wind chill and there was like ice chunks, like huge ice
I
chunks.
saw you're like breaking it off.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if I can do that, and it's such a simple thing, but it feels so hard. I'm like, if I can do that, then I can do this like job interview or this like meeting this person that I need to deal with conflict or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's a weird mind game, but yeah, I still do like cold showers in the summer to get that thing. But I do feel like with weather changes, we all are like a little bit happier.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. It's like I've seen so many people starting to do it, and I like hate cold water. Like there's nothing more that I like, even on a nice day. The only time I swam as much as I swam was in Nicaragua when it was like 36 degrees all the time. And it sucks because I love the water, but oh my God. And you're inspiring me to want to try and do it. And then after hearing that podcast too about like the dopamine, I was like, okay, like nice to hear like on a scientific, because for me it's like I do want to know there's a real benefit to just going and throwing myself into an uncomfortable situation.
I watched and we watched Chris Hemsworth has a TV series, what is it called? I'll have to send it to you. I can't remember what it's called, but he basically is taking control of his health, and he's like trying all these different things to kind of like reduce stress, and he has like some genetic conditions in his family that he's trying to like keep his stress levels down and everything. So he tries all these different kind of like fads, and just to see like, and talk to doctors and see how it is. And there's one whole episode about cold exposure and just the benefits, and he ends up like going and swimming in the Atlantic Ocean in like the freezing cold or something. And it's like, yeah, and we were just like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe like there is some science behind it. And I mean, it makes sense. There's lots of people that have been doing it for like, I mean, it's just now kind of the more like North Americans are like, yeah, we ice bath, but like that's been happening forever. And like, in like Sweden and Norway, and it just became cool here. So yeah, I don't know. I would say like look beyond the whole fad of ice baths and just like try it and actually see how it feels for you, because it definitely, it's definitely very helpful.
I do believe it. Like I have felt it when I've done cold plunges and things. Like you definitely feel that it's like it's like a sustained like calm. Your body feels like an internal chill, but it's like a euphoric calm. I don't know. It's like it's really cool.
It's like you're high a little bit.
Yeah. And like, so I guess from what Dr. Huberman says, it's like you go to a 2.5 percent rise in your dopamine from your baseline,
Mhm.
and it sustains over like, I can't remember how long it was. Like it was like a really long time compared to like,
Mhm.
you know, cocaine, smoking cigarette, like
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
things that are
Yeah.
like that heavily increase your dopamine, but like very
Mhm.
poorly and shoot you back down to below. And the cool thing about the ice baths, I'm pretty sure it was like it doesn't shoot you below your baseline after, you just go
Yeah.
back to baseline.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Which
really
is, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't like cold water before. Like I was not somebody that would like, I had friends that were like swimming in the lakes in like January and I was like,
Yeah.
no, hell no, I'm not doing that. It was just out of pure like I need something to help me through this and I'm
Hmm.
gonna, and it was really good. Like it's really good for injuries. My if my knee's sore, like it's so good for injuries and tight muscles and stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
worth trying.
Cool. Well, what do we got? Like 8 minutes left. So probably wrap it up a little bit. I think that was, unless there's anything more. I wanted to ask you if you had any goals for this coming year.
Well,
I
my
mean, I know
goal
you're
for
going
this
into
coming year,
surgery, but
yeah. Well, I had kind of like have like a few goals. So like one was to like ride as much as I possibly can before this happens because obviously I know that I'm not riding to like my full potential because there's that part of my brain that's like you have to be careful, don't do that, but just getting like a good fill so that I feel like I think I've already put on like 40 hours since like March, maybe yeah, since March or April. So we've been like, hammering it out every couple days and um yeah, so just ride as much as humanly possible and then yeah, just recover and like take physio really seriously and take care of my body and like listen to my body, which has been like challenging through the whole thing. And also like, when you get injured and like social media is so interesting because it's like I always like go back to it because it is pretty significant to people's mental health and like how we see things and how we see ourselves and everything. Like even just coaching myself through, okay, yeah, you're not going to be posting content all the time about riding because you're not going to be riding and that's going to be like hard on you. So think of some like just being able to set one of my goals is like being more creative and like how can I express myself in other ways that are not just about riding and still be able to, share
yeah,
content and have it be interesting. So
engage your
yeah, just
audience.
getting more creative and then learning about a guitar. So I'm gonna learn how to play guitar. So that's a goal.
Have you ever played
And
any
then
guitar?
no, I've never played any guitar.
Oh,
I like had a banjo for like a little bit. I had like an ex-partner a while ago that had a banjo and like I'd like tried to play it and it was like so hard. But yeah, no, I haven't played guitar or taken lessons or anything. I played piano when I was younger, but didn't keep up with it. It was
yeah.
like yeah. So that's one of my goals just to like chill out and be like kind to myself about this whole thing and take physio seriously and get back in the gym and stuff and then
Hmm.
get on my bike as soon as humanly possible. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, maybe you're gonna become a star performer by the end of this.
Yeah, I'll just start a band. I'll be touring. You'll see me touring. Yeah, no, it's so funny. But yeah, it's they're different kinds of goals this year, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then I want to get back to racing like probably later next season. Definitely want to come do some on the island. I
Hmm.
think I like that. I think I like that series a little bit more than the PNW one because I just think there's a little bit more like enduro, less like speedy
See, I'm like the
stuff.
opposite. I'm like wanting to
You
come
want wide
join.
open.
I want to go to, like, I really liked the Kahuna, but I mean, I'm still not like that fast, but it's just more.
Yeah,
I love riding enduro. I don't
yeah,
know if I love racing it. Like, I'm trying
racing
to still
enduro.
figure out where I
Okay.
fit in the racing, but
Yeah, that's
um,
why Kahuna is fun because it's like a mix and
yeah,
match of like track, wide open, grassy fields, and
yeah,
enduro.
yeah. It was
But
fun.
they're not all like that. But yeah, I
No,
don't know. I don't know where I land with racing. I don't know how I totally feel about it, but I do like the like community of it. So
yeah, that's
we'll
kind of what
see.
it is for me too.
Yeah, it's definitely like I ride definitely very different than if I'm like just chilling. If I'm like with my partner or with friends, I feel like I'm better at riding than when I race. And when I race, I'm like putting so much expectation on
Yeah,
myself. I'm like just like do dumb things,
exactly. Yeah,
drop my bike for no reason.
yeah.
But
Do you have any plans? When are you getting your surgery?
Well, it should be like early July.
Oh, okay. So pretty
So
soon.
yeah, I'm still waiting. I mean, they had called me in February, like literally on the day I was moving, and they were like, "We can get you in tomorrow." And I was like, "I literally won't be here. I will be inside of a like moving vehicle, and it won't be happening." So then they were like, "When's a good time?" And I was like, "Well, like anytime after kind of the end of June, just for like work related stuff, and then so it'll be like July or August, but hoping for July because then that gives me July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Like February, March of next year, I can get back on my bike. So
Yeah, that'd be good.
that would be good. Like I don't care about the winter. Like it's fine. It'll probably rain. Most people
Probably.
don't ride in the winter. It's fine. But we'll
uh,
see.
well, I'm excited to maybe get to ride with you sometime, and I will definitely still follow you with whatever. I believe you're gonna come up with some amazing new. I
Weird
I
stuff.
love different stuff, so show me whatever you got.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, it was
It
really
was
nice to
great.
chat with you. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I'll let you know when this is all dialed up.
That sounds great.
Talk to you
And yeah,
later.
we'll go riding with you.
For
Bye.
sure. Okay, see you, Sarah. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Wide Open Podcast on Spotify and follow at Kayla Louise on Instagram. That's at KELA Louise, and look forward to more episodes.